Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Darrin with GuitarControl.com bringing you this video lesson. And today I want to talk about the 1-4-5 chord progression. So this is a question that I get asked about a lot, about what that means. What you hear in other lessons, they'll talk about songs and they'll say this is a 1-4-5. So this just seems to be a topic that seems to have a lot of confusion around it, but it's actually incredibly simple if you just break it down, and you can already do this if you just know some basic chords. You just don't know that you can already do this. So be sure to click on the link in the description to get the tabs, and let's get close up and take a look. Alright, so the first thing is, let's just talk about what a chord progression is. So you already have know chords, your C and your G, your D, A minor, and you got all these different chords. And when you play a song, they're all put together in a sequence. So you might have something, something like that. So what that is that is a chord progression. It's the group of chords that are put together in a certain order, and they have a certain duration. So what a 1-4-5 chord progression is, it's first of all, 1-4-5 is the most commonly wide used chord progression across the board. There's countless songs in any genre you can think of that are all using the 1-4-5 chord progression. So simply, how we want to break that down is that if you take the major scale and you play the first, fourth, and fifth note from it, so here we'll start with G, so G major scale. So if you do not already know the major scale, you can actually click right here on the screen, and you can go to the lesson that I did just recently on this scale. So quickly, so if we're looking at the key of G, so I'm starting here on the 3rd fret of the low E because that's a G, and I play up to the 4th tone, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So I have G, C, and D. So that's 1-4-5. That's my root notes. So now you need to look at the chords that will be based off of that. So in the key of G major, the 1 chord is a major chord. The 4 chord is a major chord, and the 5 chord is a major chord. But they can also be, the 1 chord can also be a major 7th chord, the 4 chord can also be a major 7th, and the 5th chord can be a dominant 7th. So if you really want to dig into this, into how you determine what chords are based out of the scale, then there's another lesson that I recommend that I'll put the link right here. And this is on a lesson I did on where you can go through and it shows you each chord for each tonality of the major scale, which is just incredibly useful for not only figuring out how to play other songs, but for writing your own songs. Okay, so another simple way that we can determine 1-4-5 is that you can take any place as a starting note. So let's say we're going to start here on the 5th fret. So that's an A. So the note that is straight up from that is D, which is your 4 chord. The 4th is always just on the same fret on the next string. And it's that way across all the strings, except to the 3rd and the 2nd, and I'll explain in just a second. So if we was to start here on the 5th fret of the A string, our 4 chord, that's going to be our 1 chord, our 4 chord is on the 5th fret of the D string. And then the 5 chord is always a step up from the 4 chord. So if our 4 chord is rooted here on the 5th fret of the D string, our 5 chord would be rooted on the 7th fret. So again, here we could do A major, D major, and E major. Or we could do A major 7, D major 7, and E dominant 7. Or any combination thereof. You can also do it just simply with power chords. So you can just take your power chord shape, because a power chord, the most commonly used one is a fifth. So we take that same idea. Here's our 1, and our 5 is always the next string and skipping a fret. So that shape would be your power chord. So then you can get like. So that's like a Ramones style riff that's 1, 4, 5, but just using power chords. Now you could take that same thing and use full on, major chords with these bar chords. Now, you don't have to use bar chords or power chords necessarily. You can still achieve this by using your open chords that you probably started with, and if you're a beginner that you may not even have advanced to bar chords yet. So here we could do the same idea. So if we were looking at A major, D major, and E major, then we could do it here. E major. So any combination like that. Now, when I was talking about knowing where 1, 4, and 5 is, like I said, it's always the shape. 1, 4, 5, starting on the A string to the D string. 1, 4, 5. From the D string to the G string. 1, 4, 5. But when we go from the G string to the B string is tuned a half step lower, so we have to compensate for that. So our 4 chord, there's our 1. Our 4, instead of being on the same fret, it's going to be up 1. So on the G string, it would be the 5th fret, and then on the B string, your 4 chord would be rooted off of the 6th fret, and then up a whole step from there to the 8th fret for your 5 chord. So this 1, 4, 5 progression, like I said, is used in lots and lots of stuff. So if we look at let's see. Knock on Heaven's Door, G, D, C. So it's 1, 4, 5. But then when the second time around it actually changes, now it's G, D, A minor. So the first part of it, the G, D, C, it's instead of 1, 4, 5, it's 1, 5, 4 actually. But that's the thing you can do with that, is you can take those 3 chords and you can change the order up on them. So 1, 5, 4, and then 1, 5, 2, because it goes to A minor, and A minor is the chord that starts on the 2nd degree of the major scale. So again, if you check out that lesson that I did before, where it just has all of the chords, out of it, I think the lesson was in the key of G, but you can just transpose it to wherever you want to on the fretboard. So another kind of a cool thing that can be done, that's done with the 1, 4, 5, is your typical blues. So this is another thing you hear about, a 12-bar blues, a 12-bar 1, 4, 5 blues. So a typical one would be in the key of E. So our low E string, that's our 1 chord. So if we go straight up, since we're not playing on a fret, we're playing the open string, it would be your open 5th string, your A string. E, F, G, A, it's 4. And then B, 2nd fret, because we're going a whole step from the open 5th string to the 2nd fret. That's a whole step, so that's B. So you could have, E, A, B. but it doesn't really have like a real bluesy kind of a sound. So you could substitute that with 7th chords. So if we take E and we just remove your 3rd finger, so now that the D string is being played open, that's E7. And if we take our A chord and we change that so our G string is open, that is A7. And then if we take our D, and we're going to keep the 2 notes that are on the 2nd fret of the G and the E string, we're going to keep those, but we're going to move the one here on the B string from the 3rd fret to the 1st fret, and that's D7. So a 12 bar 1, 4, 5 would be, you have 4 bars of 1. So if here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 bars of 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord for 2 bars. And then to our B, and I just realized that I just said a minute ago that I showed you D7, and it actually needs to be B7. So let me show you that real quick. So for our B7, there's 2 ways we can do it. One, here I'm on the 2nd fret of the A string with my 2nd finger, the 1st fret of the D string with my 1st finger, the 3rd fret of the G string with my 3rd finger, it's the 2nd fret of the G string rather, with my 3rd finger, and then the B string is open and the 2nd fret of the high E with my 4th finger. That's B7. So you have 1 bar of that, and then 1 bar of the 4 chord, and then back to 2 bars of the 1. That's your typical 12 bar 1, 4, 5. Now you can do the 7th chords, and it gives it more of kind of a, a bluesy sound. But you could also just do like a shuffle. Real common. Here, just really quick, I'm fretting the 2nd fret of the A string with my 1st finger, and I'm playing the low E open. So it's like a power chord, an E5 power chord. And I'm just going to keep that finger there, and then I'm going to go up a whole step on the A string with my 3rd finger and still play the low E open. So you strum that like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so that's 1 measure. So you do 4 of that. 2, 3, 4. Then we go to our 4 chords. So we're just going to move up to the next strings and do it based on the A and the D strings. Same idea, but now 2 bars. 1 and 2, 3. Back 2 bars of the 1. Now we need to go to our 5 chord. So this is kind of a big stretch, but we're going to do that power chord, and I do it with my 1st and my 2nd finger, so that way I can reach over a whole step to do that same. But it might be easier for you to do it this way, but it's just for me, this is much easier. So you have 1 bar of that, 1, 2, 3, back to A for... And that's just like, a typical 12 bar blues, but it's based out of the 1, 4, 5 chord progression. So what I recommend you do is just play around with it. Go through and figure out some chords that you want to do. And if you're, if right now you're, you're kind of stuck with open chords because you're fairly new to the guitar, you can just mess around with doing that. You could figure out what 1, 4, 5 is based off of all of those chords. So we already did it with A. So if we did it with B, here's B, 2nd fret of the A string. So our 4 chord is going to be here, which is E, and then our 5 chord here, which is F sharp. So if you're doing it with this one, then you're going to definitely have to use a bar chord. So that may not be a great one for you to do right at first. But say we did it with C. So here's C on the 3rd fret of our A string. The 4 chord is 1 string up, same fret. So we're on the 3rd fret of the D string, which is an F, and then up a whole step from there is G. So then you might have C, G, F, just like that. So I recommend that you just go through and kind of find those and, mess around with it. You'll undoubtedly play something that you're going to go, oh, I recognize that, from a particular song, or maybe you can't think of what song it is exactly, but you'll recognize it nevertheless. All right, so I hope that that was helpful for you, and I hope that that helps you to understand what is all meant by the 1-4-5 chord progression. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below if there's something you'd like to see covered in a future lesson by myself or one of the other instructors here at guitarcontrol.com. And thanks for watching, and have a great day.